we kind of talked about mass uploaders. Mass uploaders meaning getting a third-party company that will just blast a bunch of the same stuff repeatedly over and over again. So in other words, they're doing the same interiors and they're just doing a slight deviation of the covers. Yay or nay, even following, say, the 80% rule. Let's say they have 20% of the same, like they have some content in it, but the interior is the same, the cover's slightly different. What's your
Probably
thoughts?
not on those, to be honest with you. So,
Hey, I'm Dale L. Roberts, a best-selling author as well as self-publishing advocate who wants to show you how to publish books that sell. And if you want that too, make sure you hit the subscribe button, ring the bell notification icon, and turn it to all so that way you don't miss a single one of these videos. Oh my goodness, I tell you what, I had just launched this past week a video called The Death of No Content Publishing, and it was met with a fair amount of criticism, and some of it, I can see your point of view. However, I presented the facts and I gave some speculations on the direction of the business. But rather than being ambiguous and figuring things out based on speculations, I wanted to go to the source. And I'm going to talk more about going to the other source in KDP, but I'm going to the source of IngramSpark initially. And I reached out to the founder and director of IngramSpark, Robin Cutler. This policy change and rollout directly addresses quite a few things, and one of those is going to be, of course, the no content books, low content books, and mass uploaders. So Robin and I sat down, we spoke for about an hour. I wanted to kind of just curate the best information from this interview so you can kind of go in and cherry pick. Keep in mind, I've put some timestamps down in the description down below if you want to skip forward to figure out what Robin has to say about each one of them. But I guarantee if you just sit through the entire interview, you'll see it builds up for good reason. You're gonna find out some context behind why the policy changed and how it could be related to Kindle Direct Publishing. So she addresses their stance on no content books, their relationship of the parent company, Ingram Content Group, with KDP, and best practices for all publishers moving forward. I want to give you just a heads up. This was just a last-minute booking, something that we just whipped together on the fly, and unfortunately, my sound is absolutely horrendous. Don't focus on my sound, focus on Robin, because she does give some excellent advice and some insight on what you need to do if you are an author or a no-content publisher. Without any further ado. Okay, Robin, I'm really super excited to have you here on this channel. It's not often that you actually get the director and founder of IngramSpark. So how are you feeling today?
well, hello, Dale. I am just so happy to meet you, although you told me this was the second time that we've actually met.
Second time.
We met at a conference a few years ago, I think. But really happy to talk to you. I really kind of discovered what you're doing and saw a couple of your videos on YouTube this past week, and that's how we connected. And I just think you're just doing tremendous work, and really happy to talk to you.
I want to kind of go back to the beginning here. You are the founder and director of one of the biggest print-on-demand and self-publishing platforms in IngramSpark, and biggest meaning that you have the widest reach of anyone. How did this happen? When did this happen? Like, what brought you to this point in your life?
Well, so we launched IngramSpark about 6 years ago, but prior to that, Ingram had actually started basically the self-publishing revolution with their company called Lightning Source, which is our print-on-demand company. And Lightning Source this year is 20 years old, if you can believe that.
Wow.
And so Ingram, when I joined Ingram already had the pieces that they needed to kind of create a real platform specifically designed for authors. They, had Lightning Source, they have Ingram. That was all designed for publishers and bookstores, but there really wasn't anything really there for authors. And so, I saw that there was an opportunity there. I had worked for Amazon before I came to Ingram, and I just knew that Ingram had everything, and we just kind of put the pieces together, really.
Did you ever see IngramSpark growing to this capacity?
Well, I knew that there was a need for it. And I knew about the self-publishing world just kind of taking off when I first came to work at Ingram. And but I never saw it like what it's turned out to be, which is really fantastic all the way around. You know, we have both the print on demand and ebook distribution, and then later on top of that is Ingram, which is, you know, one of the world's largest book distributors. And so it just it just was the right. I think I was the right person in the right place at the right time to kind of do that.
Nice. Do you ever feel overwhelmed by that?
No, I feel like is really grateful because I launched IngramSpark when I was 59 years old, and just to show you how old I am today. And I feel kind of like a standard bearer for, you know, an older set of citizens that still have a lot to give, and I feel like I'm really proud that I was able to do that, and even more proud that so many people like yourself have really been able to build a viable, you know, fantastic business for yourself by using, you know, IngramSpark. That makes me so happy. I can't even begin to tell you.
What is the relationship between IngramSpark and Ingram Content Group? I mean, how does that function? Do you, you're doing business as IngramSpark underneath Ingram Content Group, do you have to answer to them? And if so, is there like any wiggle room at all that you're able to do some things a little differently than, say, the parent company wants?
So Ingram is a privately held company. It's owned by the Ingram family based out of Nashville, Tennessee, a fantastic company that's been in business for about 50 years. So there are a lot of different pieces, a lot of different brands under the Ingram Content Group brand, which is the umbrella brand of everything that we do. And they're different businesses, you know, that kind of operate together, but also, you know, can operate on their own, which is kind of what IngramSpark has done. And yeah, we operate definitely under the guidelines of the big Ingram Content Group, and even bigger than that is Ingram Industries.
Oh, wow.
But by and large, you know, if we're successful, Ingram, the great thing about working for a private company is if you have a really good idea, you can try things out, you can see how things are going to go. And in the case of IngramSpark, it got off the ground really, really quickly, and it didn't take anybody really long at all to see this was something that the entire company wanted to invest in. So now what we have within IngramSpark is, you know, a lot of different parts of Ingram want to be involved and supply and provide, you know, different services and different, you know, ways for what they're doing. You know, they're seeing that an author community, you know, could be, you know, viable for like our digital products part of our business, which I don't know if you know about Aereo, which is our, it's sort of our storefront content group that's under the content group that we have. And then there's other different digital products that we're always working out. We have a educational part of the business called Vital Source, where scholars make their content available, and then we have a little piece of that. And so there's just a lot of depth, but also a lot of breadth, you know, under this Ingram content umbrella.
So it's much more than I ever even imagined.
Yeah,
wow.
it's huge. It's really huge.
Now, this is going to be kind of a more detailed question, and correct me if I'm wrong. I've always been led to believe in the research that I did, there's a relationship between Ingram and Kindle Direct Publishing through Amazon, through the expanded distribution avenue.
Yes.
Is IngramSpark involved in that, or is that just directly through Ingram Content Group?
So it's actually another company that I mentioned previously, Lightning Source, which is our print-on-demand company.
Interesting.
It's really the relationship between Kindle Direct Publishing and Lightning Source, where Lightning Source is providing print services to Kindle through expanded distribution. So the titles come in through Lightning Source, and then Lightning Source feeds those titles to Ingram, and then those titles go into the Ingram catalog where bookstores and libraries can then purchase them. So Ingram's kind of like this big sort of center wheel, and you've got publishers providing content on one side, and then bookstores and libraries buying on the other side. But the way in that Kindle works is through the Lightning Source platform.
Interesting. I've learned something new. Thank you very much for clarifying, because I know that it was something involving an Ingram, but I could never get a direct answer from anybody on the KDP print team. So now it makes some sense.
Yeah.
So what has prompted us talking? Let's go ahead and address the elephant in the room, as I often will say, is a big policy change. And this policy change is pretty good. It's pretty good. Actually, quite a few things that, needed to happen and needed to be addressed. And kudos to that. Share with me about what prompted the policy change. What was the reason why you decided to shift now rather than before now?
I think probably what prompted it were a couple of things. So on the publisher side, we had a couple of instances earlier in the year where someone nefariously grabbed a legitimate publisher's ISBN and then tried to publish their books under someone else's ISBN, and all the metadata and everything got as confused as you would imagine that to be.
Yeah.
So that happened on the publisher side, and not a whole lot. I mean, it just one or two instances that we kind of dealt with.
Yeah.
And then on the retail and library side, especially the retail side of the Ingram business, there was content that was being uploaded that frankly was causing problems for them selling to their customers. So customers would buy books that were inaccurately or deceptively listed, and then their customers would buy that book product and then bring it back to them, and then they just finally said, we don't want this stuff. So you're going to have to create some sort of system to kind of look at what's in the catalog, and over the course of the year, Ingram, across some multiple different businesses under Ingram Content Group, just kind of looked at this kind of holistically as a problem that we needed to address, and that's really what we've done. It's definitely company-wide and something that is probably overdue, but something we've been working on for this past year for sure.
Yeah, there was quite a bit that I saw in the policies, and rather than us trying to go over each and every single one of them, maybe we can just kind of come back to the inaccurate or deceptive listings. Can you cite any specific examples of the inaccuracies or the deceptiveness that was being uploaded here?
So, to be clear, it wasn't just like IngramSpark. So, okay. It was multiple systems where some of this content was coming in. So, for instance, the Michelle Obama book, Becoming, suddenly there's a summary of that book using that cover. It was just whatever was really doing well, they would find out and then make these summary versions of those books and then try to use very close to those same covers. And obviously that's deceptive, right? That's not what a customer would think they were buying. They would think they were buying the original book. So that's something that we've had to address. And then there's just been weird stuff where, for instance, and I'll just use this because I know that this actually happened, where somebody is putting the picture of a Viagra bottle or, some kind of drug on a cover.
Yeah.
And if you look at it online, it looks like a bottle of the drug, right? Or
Oh no.
that kind of crazy. I mean, it's kind of crazy stuff. Um, but so yeah, I mean, you're right in your earlier video that you did that stuff, doesn't need to be junked up with legitimate, published and especially indie published kind of content. That for
Yeah.
almost for the most part is good content that is creatively produced, right?
Yeah. So there is one specific area, actually two to be specific here. One area that you addressed is no books should have more than 10% of blank content. And the other one is going to be mass uploaders. And we'll talk about mass uploaders in just a second here. I want to kind of address the 10% or more blank content. Let's go and address this. This is an area that's commonly referred to as no content books and sometimes labeled as low content books, meaning things like diaries, notebooks, journals, and sometimes planners, things like that. So what requires like a different customer subset, not readers per se, but more people that write into their stuff. As that kind of stands, I noticed that you're kind of saying, okay, no more of the no content books. Is there any wiggle room on this type of stuff?
Yeah. So, and we kind of we did update our FAQs. You might want to take a look at those after that first day, because we did see there were a lot of questions around this. So, and actually we rephrased it to say 90 to 100% blank instead of the 10%. So 90 to 100%.
So it was
blank.
much more you're allowing. So it's like, okay, we're okay with the diaries, journals, planners, so long as there's substance in there, some substance of what, 10 to 20%. So you kind of flipped the percentage to where you would still allow for some of the no content, low content books.
And especially say you have a scholarly book or a business book or a self-help book, and you've also created a workbook or something that goes along with that original content.
Yeah.
That's something, and you're doing it one off along with your book. We're going to see that sort of aligns and probably say that's okay. Right. The team is probably going to say and we are being very judicious in how we're looking at this content today. This team, is really looking and seeing, is this legitimate? Is this something that is something that enhances other works that they have in their accounts? And by and large, those are going to probably be allowed to go forward into the catalog. But if they're not, we have also said that, we may pull a title out of the distribution feed.
Yeah.
That means AKA the catalog.
Yeah.
But we may, but we still will allow you to order those for yourself. Like if you, are selling these things yourself, you can always use us as your printer. And we'll be happy to supply those to you.
Very interesting, because I know I had a brief conversation with Emily at the IngramSpark headquarters, and it was one of the things that she had mentioned that you'd watched the video and had taken some exception to one of my recommendations, and now this makes sense because you're still able to self-fulfill through IngramSpark.
Yes.
So that's pretty interesting.
And that to our discredit, that was a little confusing when we first put the notice out, and then we cleared that back up in the updated FAQ that we did.
All right, so I need to ask this one other question when it comes to it, just to make sure that we're clarifying, because there's something that's called low content books, which actually have some content. And this usually includes typically like children's activity books, puzzle books, coloring books. Are these kind of okay?
Yes, those are probably, especially if, like I said, they're in association with other content that the account holder or the content provider has, in their account, we're probably going to allow those.
We kind of talked about mass uploaders. Mass uploaders meaning getting a third-party company that will just blast a bunch of the same stuff repeatedly over and over again. So in other words, they're doing the same interiors and they're just doing a slight deviation of the covers. Yay or nay, even following, say, the 80% rule. Let's say they have 20% of the same, like they have some content in it, but the interior is the same, the cover's slightly different. What's your thoughts?
Not on those, to be honest with you. So that's something that, like I said, the team is reviewing and seeing. And the other thing that, oh, my cat did get in. I'm sorry. You'll see her.
Special guest.
Special guest. The mass upload, like we know, like when people are uploading content, how much they're uploading. So we'll be able to see, if you are being kind of excessively uploading, and that's a trigger right there to look. Okay. So that's just something to be aware of. The thing about IngramSpark that's kind of kept, our content fairly, I would say, good, and most of it exactly, everybody has that content they're creating that we want. The fact that they have to upload one at a time and we don't have a mass upload tool within IngramSpark, that kind of has made everything be more positive for the content that we have in IngramSpark today. So, but yeah, people have taken advantage of the bulk upload tools that even Lightning Source, I think, has. And so that's something that we're going to be looking at too.
Nice. It's good to know, because I know there's some people that are using it just to try to get the easy button, try to push things through.
Yeah, I loved your easy button when you had that in your...
Yeah, the easy button, I'm going to go ahead and put it over the screen right now. That easy button, unfortunately, is just going to get some people in trouble, and it's just... they're forgetting, I think, and I think you can confirm this. There are human beings on the other side of the computer.
I love that you said that. That was so great. We loved that. There's my other cat. We loved that you said that you said these are human beings looking at everything. That's exactly right. And people that are working really hard, they're very diligent. Yeah. We're all taking this really seriously. We don't want to penalize publishers that are creating really great content that, we've been able to help them, start their own publishing companies and, start on a publishing pathway. We definitely want to enable that. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, there's these bad actors that, have kind of ruined it for all of us. And, isn't that what happens everywhere?
Yep. I discovered that before we used to have to come to IngramSpark with our own ISBN. We had to have our own ISBN. Then I just tripped over something, that there actually is a free assigned ISBN via US only. What prompted that decision, and do you see yourself expanding to other regions and offering the free ISBN option?
So, yeah, and I personally, and if you went to any of my sessions in the past, I talk a lot about ISBN and how important it is to own your own ISBN. I still believe that. However, I was just getting beat up through the years of everybody saying, why don't you have free ISBN like KDP does? So finally, I made the deal with Bowker, and we just decided to move forward with it. Yeah. And I'm glad that we did. There's, it just allows people to, create content, put it up, and even get it out into distribution, as inexpensively as possible, just to kind of try things out and see what's going to work. I'm sorry, my cat.
Giving some love to the camera. Thank you.
Yeah, she is. And I'm sorry. So anyway, I just made the decision and finally got everybody on board. Let's just try this and see how it goes. And, so far, we're really happy that we've been able to offer that. And we haven't even announced it yet. Like, we just wanted to see how it was going to go.
Sorry, I announced it for you.
You'll see things like that from time to time where we, in fact, we are going to be doing a pretty big update to the IngramSpark website. Okay. You'll start to see this in just a couple of weeks, I think around the middle of March.
Oh,
where
wonderful.
you'll see changes to the title setup. You'll see, a formatting tool, a brand new formatting tool that we've been working on for years. You'll finally have access to that, where you can actually format your content within IngramSpark, drop in a Word file, pick a template, create a book, and that's also going to be for free. So
Wow.
look for that. That's going to be huge. Half the people that come to us, struggle with actually creating, compliant files. So this is going to help with that a lot.
Very, very cool. Well, I've already ate up a lot of your time, but prior to this, I really wish we recorded. We had, quite the conversation and such. How can people get a hold of you or get in touch with you? I know you and I kind of corresponded via Twitter ever so briefly. Is there a better place to get a hold of you?
Well, you can always, if you have a support question, if you have an IngramSpark account and you need help, I'm not the right person to ask for help. I'll be the slowest person to respond, but you can always write to me. Just don't expect, immediately an answer. But I'm Robin.Cutler at IngramContent.com. And then our support team is IngramSpark support at IngramContent.com. And you can reach us by chat, by email, by phone. We are 24/7. We're really happy, all that you've done, Dale, to build your business, all that you're doing to promote and tell people about IngramSpark. We really, really appreciate.
Well, thank you. I very much appreciate your time.